8 years ago in 2010, Nokia only held 37% of the smartphone market. This was their downfall, and many other companies began taking them over in OS and smartphone shares. Of course, the ringleader of this overthrow was Apple. But little did Apple know that they would not become a monopoly and instead have one big competitor in the future. Samsung may not have owned that much of the smartphone market back in 2010, but they planted the seed for what would become the future. If it seems like the iPhone is ranking a lot better than the Galaxy in a lot of these comparisons, it's because these were different times. But as time goes on, the Galaxy series began growing a lot more into being innovative like it is today. Now, just to point something out, there are a ton and a ton and a ton and a ton of different Galaxy S's. There is the Galaxy S Captivate, the Galaxy S Vibrant, the Galaxy S Stratosphere, the Galaxy S Indulge, the Galaxy S Infuse, the Galaxy S Aviator. All of these North American variants did not have a home button. The reason being is that Apple sued Samsung for violating a home button patent. But according to some people, this is why there were no main home buttons. That's what I used to think as well, but then I realized that there are some moments where each carrier will have their own type of version of a phone back during this time, and that's probably a bigger potential because the lawsuit wasn't put until late of 2010, early of 2011 during that time. I don't remember the specifics. And these phones came out around the middle of 2010. As you'll notice, each phone has its own carrier, so like for example, the Fascinate is with Verizon. So yeah, if I had to conclude why there's no home button on most of these American carrier versions, I'd say it just has to be because of preference, I guess. So let's start this off with my favorite subject first. It is estimated that every day 1.8 billion photos are taken, and most of them consist of smartphones. And cameras on our phones were as big of a deal as they are today as they were 8 years ago. And I have to say, even till this day, these still are impressive. Not amazing, but you'll see. So unlike today's standards of 4K on all smartphones, back then the S and 4 both had 720p as the highest. That was the standard at the time, and there still is a very big difference between both of these phones. The iPhone 4 sensor seems to make colors pop a lot more than the Galaxy S, but it seems like the iPhone 4's camera is a lot shakier than the Galaxy S's. Yeah, during this time, smartphone cameras didn't have stabilizers. I also noticed that the 4's camera sometimes reacts a little bit negatively to the sunlight and it makes some stuff yellow. As you can see with this, I think it shows the best how much colors pop, especially green. It just looks like it's coming at your face. For photos, it seems like the Galaxy S does a lot better job, but sometimes it looks a little bit darker than the iPhone's camera, especially in that photo. One handy thing that I will say about the Galaxy's camera though is that you can pause a video. That makes stuff a lot easier than having to make a whole new video for the iPhone. Inside the iPhone 4 was an Apple A4 chip, a 1GHz processor, 8GB of memory all the way up to 32, and a 1420 mAh battery. The Galaxy S had a Hummingbird chip, a 1.0GHz processor, 2GB of memory that can be expanded all the way to 32, and 1500 mAh of battery. So I conducted a speed test, and this is where the Galaxy S actually shines. As you can see when I load a website, it seems like the iPhone is about to catch up, but then the S wins at the end. There are some moments when the iPhone beats the Galaxy S when opening apps, and when I boot them both on, even with the Galaxy S having 3 intros, it appears to still be faster to boot in than the iPhone. This also reminds me of a time when it took a long time for your smartphone to boot after you reset it. I wanted to try some hardcore apps and play some games, but the App Store for both of these is already outdated. There's no way to download anything. Although I could download an APK, thanks to Android being so flexible, but for iOS, as we know, Apple, there's no way to download any app unless you update. Another big difference between both of these phones is the display. The Galaxy S had a 480 by 800 pixel ratio with a Super AMOLED display, while the iPhone has a 640 by 960 pixel ratio with its Retina display. The iPhone 4's Retina display looks a lot better than the Galaxy S's AMOLED display. This may seem like the opposite case, but when I put the phones closer to the camera, you'll notice that the pixels begin to show a little bit more on the S. This of course was Apple's main feature compared to its predecessor. It seemed like the iPhone 4 did a lot better than the Galaxy S. I never like picking sides in these videos, but this is not really an opinionated statement, and I'm the guy that owns this. The iPhone 4 was a very big leap for Apple. During this time, designs of smartphones weren't really the prettiest. Not entirely ugly, but not that sort of fashion statement that you'd see today, because most of them were plasticky and all that stuff. But with a brilliant mind like Johnny Ive, this isn't just a phone that had a better display and a better camera, this was also a phone that looked good. The flaw that most people had though was the glass, and yeah, I can tell why. I remember a lot of friends owning an iPhone 4 or 4S, and they'd have cracks everywhere. Now from all of this though, what I would believe that Samsung was trying to do with the Galaxy S was trying to make a stable brand and first take on Android, which kind of makes sense. When you audition to be in a competition or a TV show, you don't just pass the audition and then you're good. In most cases, you'll have to pass the audition to get to the real audition for the TV show. With the Galaxy S, I don't see that thing that Samsung was doing, which was poking fun at Apple, but later on they had counterpoints with future Galaxy phones on why you should buy them instead of the iPhone. Also, the Galaxy S came first, and it shocked a lot of people. The display was beautiful, the camera was amazing, as an Android phone and also compared to the iPhone 3GS. But Apple's unveiling of the iPhone 4 just shocked people. And when you look at this comparison, you can tell why. The original iPhone may have set Apple already for a successful start, but I think the 4 really just helped boost Apple a lot.
And it's unhealthy to pretend that what we had was perfect, cause it wasn't perfect. But we couldn't do this to ourselves if it was never worth it, never worth it. And all your friends will probably tell you that you don't deserve this, you don't deserve